doing what I'm supposed to be doing as a veteran. This is about me. I'm the deliverer. I'm the messenger. But this is about the military, President Donald John Trump, and all the other people working back there. You're more happy that Charlie's dead. In another way, this is how I tell people, you actually want him dead. I'm sitting here showing you how you could be watching a military operation by laws and orders. And I'm like, you actually want him more dead than I do, because I know he's not. This is not the deep state doing something and then we're firing back or we're ahead of them and then they fire back. This is all theater. There's no burial. Where's the burial? Like, this is the stuff that gets me. No casket, no burial, right? Okay, so President Trump went to Billy Graham, laid his hand on the casket. All right. He went to Pope Francis. He was at George Herbert Walker Bush, and he was at Jimmy Carter's funeral. We all saw caskets of all these people, but we can't see a casket at the quote-unquote funeral. What was so important about getting on a podcast the next day? I'm pretty sure America would be okay with the show if this was real, by saying, all right, there won't be a few shows for a few days or a week or two. You know, what was so important about having his buddies up there, his quote-unquote widow up there, which was all artificial intelligence as well. You run that same video through the chat GPT, artificial intelligence. All right, so all that was fake. And then his executive producer said exactly what needed to be said with 2 words. He said, Charlie was not much of a central casting kind of guy. Boom. There's your consistency with President Donald John Trump, all the central casting comments he said for the last 9 years. He sacrificed his name, his brand, his image to create this massive movement for the bigger outcome down the road. And there will be disclosure on this. But for right now, they're not ready for that because we're turning into what's getting ready for October, Red October, with the subpoenas of Bill and Hillary and all these things. And for people who think Q was a conspiracy theory, all of you Republican conservatives out there calling people Q-tards, I've always said this, Q is no good unless it has laws and orders with it. But Q, President Trump, just not long ago, put up a post a couple weeks ago before all this. He put up a post and it said, the world will soon understand. Nothing can stop what's coming. And in his left hand had a Q with a plus sign by it, Q plus. You have to disclose to people. Now, I've told people straight out the gate, it won't be no gloomsday, doomsday, nothing like that. Why would it be like that? But you get everybody's phones flipped over. The phones and the TV, they can't get out of it. Boom. It's right in front of them. And then what did everybody pass the other day? The one thing they passed the test of was this. They've been desynthesized. Yellowstone, Ozark, Walking Dead, Breaking Bad, all these TV shows made people get over the goriness. They didn't even, no one commented on the goriness of the blood and, no. Everybody went sad. Mm-hmm. Everybody went sad, emotional, feelings, crying, angry, and all that. But no one focused on the gory. So what are they ready for? Quick trials. They're ready to see executions on TV. They're ready to see people punished. And the only way you flip society back over is you got to be tough every now and then, and you flip people and say, this is what you're going to get for treason.
Hi, Lisa Michaels here again, once again, with the best intel person there is out there. I'm so blessed to have gotten in contact with Derek Johnson. When all of this military operation and these crazy events have been happening worldwide, he's the one who's been translating it to say, hey, look, this has already happened. We're just showing it to you now because they can't afford to be operating and doing the things that they had to do to take down the bad people that are out there in real time. They needed to do it and then know, just like in a courtroom, you don't ask a question in a courtroom unless you know the answer from your witness. They needed to have this all orchestrated, and it will go down in history as the most amazing military operation, strategic war underneath the surface while people just continue on in their merry little lives. that anybody has ever seen. I've been reporting the unreported news since 2007 on YouTube and now on Rumble at Accountability Show. I don't post to YouTube, although I heard just today that they might start bringing back channels that were taken down from YouTube. And so maybe I'll go back on YouTube. I haven't been on Facebook in years because of the censorship, but I just want to get the news. So if you do like this video, please share it, please comment, please like it. And it would be really cool to subscribe. Without further ado, I'm just gonna hand it completely over to the military expert, retired Army military, Derek Johnson.
Just a veteran, keeping my oath, showing people the laws and orders of the land, but also the military, which typically is things that people don't really, sit around and sip mimosas and read about. So, but from the standpoint of my grandfather, served during 43 to 45 in the Army during the most popular puppet government that was used as a tactic. Where would we be if I didn't listen to my grandfather? Now, it does sound like, oh, I'm the only one out there, but I am the only one out there putting it out there just like this, all by President Donald John Trump first, military laws and orders first. It's not about me and everything I put out there, straight up laws and orders. Then there's strategies and tactics that the military have. There's layers of that: unconventional warfare, irregular warfare, and it just depends on what the purpose is. So the only way President Trump could have pulled this off, and it wasn't him necessarily, but he's the one that signed up for it, put his name, brand, face, image, likeness on it. The only way this could be pulled off was lawfully, but also military laws. The military was established first in this land. Military laws were established first in this land. So people typically don't know those kind of things. So, and then I also reiterate to people, I'm not a podcaster. I'm retired military, doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. So I told people there's two big overlying things you can look at. Most of the people this week and over the last 12 days, 13 days, reacted emotionally with their feelings. All right. And most of those people are Republicans and conservatives. All right. It wasn't the liberals this time. All right. So what I showed people is the same people who reacted this time around, majority are the people from 2020. In 2020, people let the fear of death control them. This time, they let the perception of death control them. All right. And you failed both tests.
With regards to Charlie Kirk.
That's correct. All right. But the again, 2020 would be the fear of death of a vaccine and all these other things that people went out and got. Oh, I got to get it. I'm going to die. That was the fear. Still all right here. Then also the perception, still right here, which shows you're still what? You're controlled by whom? Mainstream media. The last couple of weeks, see what people didn't pay attention to is the laws and the orders. President Trump has 7 executive orders this year alone for artificial intelligence. 6 of those were before September the 10th. And we have an artificial intelligence executive order signed September the 18th. So it means it's what? Consistent. All right. So what did Melania do September the 4th?
Are you ready for an AI challenge? Take part in this nationwide initiative to discover, develop, and expand AI's potential. As someone who created an AI-powered audiobook and championed online safety through the Take It Down Act, I've seen firsthand the promise of this powerful technology. Now, I pass the torch of innovation to you. Just as America once led the world into the skies, we are poised to lead again.
Oh, just the 4th, she had a massive speech to the average eye at the White House about the importance of artificial intelligence and how people don't need to brush it under the rug. All right, so they're showing you all these things. All right, and then on the 10th, 6 days later, America failed the test. All right, if you take that original footage and put it into Chat GPT, it shows you it's artificial intelligence. All right, I'm going to break down how it wasn't real, like every little detail, but just that alone. The same group of people who reacted, crying, boo-hooing, and all these other things were just cheering about a month ago, the ones that saw it, President Trump sharing a video on artificial intelligence of Obama being arrested. Same app. The same app that created that is the same app that you run this video through of CK being shot, all right, and it says it's artificial intelligence. If you can't correlate those, that's what I call a parallel and a principle. If you can't parallel those, correlate that, you're a hypocrite. Chat GPT.
Okay.
All right, and it's free to everybody, and it's free. You know, there's a commercial out there now. Some commercial, it's free. This one's free. You don't have to pay anything. You got to create a username and a login, but then you just upload photos, or you can tell it to do anything, whatever. So now let's get to the visuals of that day. All right, the visuals of that day. Now, I always keep this right here. Now, I'm not sponsored by these people, but I wish I was, because I would like to have free bullets. But these are Remington. All right, core lock. This is the 30-06, and I just happen to have one out already. This is a 30-06 bullet. Snipers use these. They also use a 308 and a 300, depending on who it is and what it is. But 30-06, this is a sniper round. All right, and also a deer hunting, heavy. This will take an elephant on the ground. All right, so something that will put an elephant on the ground, if it hits your neck in the jugular, you ain't gonna have no neck anymore, my friends. All right, now I just happen to know someone who's been shot in the neck, all right, by buckshot of a shotgun, and it was a bloody mess. And it didn't hit the jugular, and it was still bloody. All right, this right here, at this, let's see, this is a 180 grain. This is a big bullet. Sometimes I shoot 140, sometimes I shoot 180, and in between. But that right there, 180 grain, it'll probably go 2,800 feet a second. All right, I have a 7mm Magnum, which is a smaller lead and a bigger gunpowder. It'll go 3,600 feet a second. Ladies and gentlemen, let me just do your math for you. That's a half a mile in a second. All right. When I kill a deer with this, one, I make sure I make a good lethal shot on it. That way it don't suffer. Most of the time I shoot them in the neck, because it's bye-bye, lights out when you hit that jugular. Gone. It's like going to sleep in another kind of way. All right. But this thing creates so much, when it's going through the air like this, coming at you, this bullet, not the casing, obviously, but when it goes through, this bullet has about a 2 to 3 inch radius around it. It's coming so fast, coming through that air. When it hits, it would leave a hole in your neck on this side about $50. All right. On the other side, it's going to leave like a baseball or a softball when it makes its exit. All right. You would have seen his freaking neck dangling if a 30-06 would have hit him in the jugular at the angle which they showed. All right. That's the other thing people didn't pay attention to. Right out the gate, within an hour, media told you it was a 200-yard shot. They didn't have a shooter or a location. So how did they know it's a 200-yard shot? Also, panoramic view. They have all these views for people available. On the ground, there's a view where you can look out to the left, pan around to his right. It looks like an amphitheater where it goes up. The people are sitting up like that, which means the shooter had to be elevated. Well, how was he elevated at 200 yards and Charlie Kirk sitting in the middle of a tent, in the middle of it, which means that the awning where it says prove me wrong, the awning, how could he see under there to make a net shot with one shot? All right. Couldn't. All right. That young person, 200 yards, the breathing had to be perfect, the air, everything. That wouldn't have happened. And then they telling you that. Then the fact that it didn't leave what it's supposed to leave and an exit straight out the gate. Now let's show what they showed you. All right. They showed you all over media. Everybody saw the same thing, got to see the quote-unquote shot in the blood. When I shoot a deer, ladies and gentlemen, those deer are grazing out there. All right, they have no idea I'm anywhere in their presence. That's why it's called hunting. All right, when I shoot a deer, the deer don't lean into the bullet. The deer don't know the bullet's coming. So how did he lean into the bullet and then you see the shirt move? Well, this bullet wouldn't have made the shirt move. All right. His shirt was also perched out this way when you look at it that way. There was a mark that was right here. It went from here to here to here to the neck. All right. What I teach people is this. Take your phone, ladies and gentlemen, cell phone. Go to the original footage. Pull down the menu. Screen record. All right. Record the whole thing. Stop it. Go to your photo gallery. Click on your gallery. Go in there, push pause on the video, and then screen record again and take your finger and that little bitty line that goes across, just barely move it across. Let it barely move while you're recording, screen recording. That way it picks up every little movement like that. Go do that. All right. They showed you, why are they letting social media show a video of blood and what most people would consider gore? All right. Gory. Why? They let this out there. I get censored for the stupidest things on Facebook to this day. Just something don't even have anything to do with flesh or anything, and Facebook is censor it. Just that quick. Everybody and their mama is getting to see a quote unquote gory net shot. So he leans into it. He's sitting in a chair with no arms. All right, a stool, if you will. Leans into the bullet, shirt moves backwards, and he's still hanging on to the microphone. No, ladies and gentlemen. No. A jugular shot, you're decommissioned like that. He would have done just like that, and because the bullet hit here, the reaction would have been like that, and he would have fallen over to the right more than likely because he's 6'5", 240-something pounds. He's not going to be stationary in a chair with no arms. And if it even would have had arms, he would have slumped over like that because of his weight. His dead body weight would have been like this. He wouldn't have stayed in a chair with no arms. All right. And then what did you see? Them grab him and go to the left. All right. There just so happens to be a hat store over here that goes underground. All right. That they're putting out on media right now. They're putting out this hat store right over to his left, a door that goes underground. And they're showing this to everybody. They got the date wrong on the Hill, which is a big outfit out there. They got the date wrong on the shooting, September the 15th. They're doing all these things on purpose to show you none of this is real. But get back to the gore. It shows this one stream about that long coming out of this right here, out of the mark that moved from here to here. The blood never gets past his pec. It never lands in his lap. Go back and watch the video, people. You watched it already. It didn't gross you out then. It never goes past here. A white shirt? And there's no blood anywhere on a white shirt? Right here. And this is why it comes in handy to slow it down. Now watch. When you slow down the video, blood is going this way. How is blood splattering horizontally when it don't even land on the surface? All right. All those things, ladies and gentlemen. Now, David Harris Jr., who I have a friend who's buddies with, the only other video out there, all these others out there, central casting audience is what that was. Let me tell you real fast. If America is as safe as President Donald John Trump is saying, then he's lying. And I know he's not lying. All right. But this is an operation. Because if it's as safe as he says it is, then how come one of his own people, all right, who his wife was connected to, who's a popular figure, who's been around all these college campuses with 8 or 9 million followers on one platform, how come, if America's as safe as he says it is, that they didn't have that location secure? How come his security guy is standing behind him looking at his phone? Ladies and gentlemen, when you're on duty, your phone's away. You're on duty, your eyes are peeled everywhere, especially when you're a security guy. And there's different security levels. There's rovers, and you got all your personal detail right there, but especially your personal detail. That got to be always on cue, because if something did slide through out there, the rare chance that it would, then those guys are right there next to it. You got the guy next to him. As soon as Charlie puts his microphone down, he scratches his nose, and simultaneous when he does it, this guy over here scratches his nose, ears, like a third base coach. All right, and then turns and takes the phone like this after he does that. Turns directly to. Now, you had all these idiots out there saying, oh, well, the guy right here had this under here. No, That was a sound, audio, one of those things that made people think they heard a gunshot. They were all ready for this. This was all planned, all right, all strategically planned. But all the other videos that have surfaced, if mainstream media can put out the blood coming out, then how come all these others have blotches on them? All right, that's all strategically planned because David Harris Jr. let one slip out. He's got one to this moment right now as we speak on Facebook. You go to it. Do the same thing I told you. Screen record it. Go to gallery. Screen record again. Slow down. It's the angle right here looking at from the third base coach is someone right there behind him. Slow it down. Watch him when he moves like that. Watch him when he leans into it like that. No blood comes out. If you saw blood from the front splurting out what it showed you, then when you watch this angle, you should see it coming out kind of like this. All those things right there alone, AI. Now, the bigger picture is this. The end goal and the outcome is this. President Trump last July was speaking, and I'm going to leave the punchline where it is later. All right, but President Trump was speaking, and he said something that the liberals went stir nut crazy over because it painted that perfect picture for them of being up under a king. All right, President Trump had given this speech where he said, would you believe that majority of Christians and gun owners do not vote in this nation? Here we are, a Christian nation, and most Christians, if you walked up to them, will tell you that. A lot of Christians, we're a Christian nation. Do you vote? No. Majority of Christians do not vote. All right, and President Trump gave the data that night. Then he said something that the liberals went stir crazy over. This shows how this all ties in, ladies and gentlemen. All right, there's a thing called a target audience. You don't have to be in that target audience if you'll listen to someone who knows laws and orders and military and federal and how they pair and also just being a deer hunter. All right, but the target audience. In that July, he said that. He said, Christians, just get out and vote. You won't have to vote again. You won't ever have to vote again. Boy, the liberals went crazy with that, talking about being a king. He wasn't talking about that. He was trying to fire up Christians and everything, etc., making them feel like we're about to lose this nation because you got to get people involved. What did you see September 21st? You saw a worship session of a quote-unquote funeral without a casket. All right. And people were raising their hands, worshiping God. I don't have any issue with that. So that's where people got to put that aside. That's not what we're talking about. Let's look at the target audience that was sitting out there. All right. And what did they do to them?
I think there was like 100 million streaming too. Did you hear that?
Yeah. Yeah. And so what I'm saying is, I was going to get to that. So the 100 million plus them in the audience, they made them sign up with name, email, all their location, their address and everything. That's setting up for the emergency alert system. All right. Because this is all playing in. I was getting there. So watch this. So all these people out there, just target audience, they got them in there. It was a national security specialty event. There's only been 3 of those in history with funerals: Reagan, Ford, and Bush. All right. So that showed you that Secret Service had control of that. All right. And everybody had to sign up beforehand. So they got more and more people signed up. It's hitting all the colleges. They're keeping the tour going, and also the high schools out there. So you got your old people already hooked on Fox News. You got your middle-aged people who are news/phone. Then you got your 25 to 35-year-olds who are all on phone. And now you got your college kids and your high schoolers all connected now, paying attention. They got everybody ready, and there will be enough people for that disclosure. Now go back to July and think where he was speaking. So September 21st, the Q told you, enjoy the Q rally tonight. All right, September 21st Q drop. Enjoy the Q rally tonight. All right, in Arizona. All right, with a funeral with no casket. All right, so now go back to July. Where was he speaking? Telling the Christians. Turning Point USA. See how the target audience comes in and see, voila. Now, people ask me right now the best question.
Was you when he got shot? Was it the Butler? Was that what a Turning Point event?
No, I was talking about July.
Okay, in July.
No, we're talking about July, the campaign.
Okay,
yeah. So there's your target audience to find right there. So everybody needs to be involved. So, but there's executive orders that prove that this was a artificial intelligence. It's part of the operation, and you just have to, know all those things. But I can set all that up. It's just hard to do it without. I have to be able to just rattle it all off.
You were nailing it. You were nailing the blood, the thing that you just explained. You were showing screenshots. Brilliant to get the screenshots of the books that were already out on Amazon the day before, and two the day of, about the Charlie Kirk shooting. These people are so greedy; they're just getting it. Or do you think that was the good guys putting that out?
It's all good, guys. Here's the biggest misperception out there by even people who call themselves patriots. This is not the deep state doing something and then we're firing back, or we're ahead of them and then they fire back. This is all theater. So there's supposed to be a new Air Force One and a new Marine One. All right. There was a new Marine One that was called back in November 2021 because of some issues. Well, then they showed that, quote unquote, Joe got to ride in the first Marine One in August 2024. All right, so Dan Scavino just posted yesterday a photo of the new Marine One in the sky, the brand new one. And it's got a different look from the old ones. It's got a more pointy nose. The other ones are more round, like cut off. All right, so there's been no White House military office since January 2022. That's your transportation, your travel, and communications of all your military aircraft for the president. All right. So if there's no White House military office, and the last one that pops up on Google Archives is Obama, then that should show you right out the gate. But then also, did you have to spawn off and say, okay, or do you think that President Trump don't know what the heck's going on with his own communications and travel? Because by perception, people see Air Force One and Marine One, or do you? It's all a theater. And here's how. When he was in the United Kingdom just a few days ago, his Marine One had to make an emergency landing. Well, guess what it looks like? The old Marine One. So why in the hell would President Trump be riding in the old Marine One if there's already new Marine Ones? All right. And it says there's operational status is operational. So they're not on recall. So why would he be flying around in the old Marine Ones that have issues, and it said it had a hydraulic issue? I wouldn't be in no helicopters, because I can tell you right now, I'd rather be in an airplane, than I would in a helicopter when it had issues. All right, if you in a helicopter and it got issues, you can kiss your ass goodbye. All right, just as simple as that, and that's military for you. Just cut and drop. So there's little things that can show people what they're watching is all theater, but that's when you have to have a love and respect for unconventional warfare and irregular warfare, because it's not conventional. It ain't your typical boots on the ground and what people think of as military. It's all tactical. It's all strategic. And it's just flipping the deep state.
Why do you think he was flying? They had the perception that he was flying in an old helicopter. How does that advance the movie?
Well, it doesn't advance it. I'm saying that if people can sink their teeth into that, it can show you. Don't you think President Donald John Trump, of all people, would be riding around in a Rolls Royce? Yes. All right, because his Trump Force One has what? Rolls Royce engines on it. So don't you think that he would already be in that? So that all it does is paint a picture that it's theater that you're watching. You don't want to focus too much on this, because this is not a topic that I just brought that up. So that's what they want to think like me, but I'm like, well, you're not thinking. Right, you got to in a thought process of going. That's a little teeny tiny thing that can show you. Don't you think that if this was all real in real time, that man right there wouldn't be in no Rolls Royce? I can go ahead and tell you right now, he would be.
Oh, well, also, right? What do you think about him walking in front of the king, just like he walked in front of the queen, inspecting the trip?
So I tell people all the time, I keep it right here. This is a whole operation. The whole thing's an operation until he terminates the continuity of government and revokes it. It's an operation. So that's a continuation of what you saw walking in front of the Queen way back 2018. And then you got to listen to what the guy said. The commentator saying that I've never seen anything like this before. This is royalty right here. This is the highest honor. All right. So, people got to know that. But get back to Charlie. It's better to get back to that because we can't deviate too much off of that or we'll lose people. But he is a part of the operation. And if people will actually get their emotions and feelings out of it, how could I know on September the 15th to go on a live podcast on my own, which I do on Sunday, every Sunday I try to do it. How did I know to go live on the 15th? Nowhere out there on Turning Point USA, Charlie Kirk or Erica or President Trump or Dan Scavino, nowhere out there was there any verbiage yet of this, in all caps, is the turning point until the 17th on their page. How did I know to say this is the turning point? And it's because I've been showing people long before the 15th that every war has a turning point, and when we get there, you'll see it. And I'm trying to teach people, if you don't listen to the president, the commander-in-chief, you could be listening to a million voices out there. If they don't know the laws and the orders of the president and what he's using, you're going to be lost as a penguin in Jamaica. All right, it's just how it works. But people are that they create their own demise and emotions and feelings when they don't listen and seek to know. Now, what makes President Trump so great and different and unique, and how come it looks so different than days of old? All right, it's not just because he was an outsider and he talks different and he lives different. It has nothing to do with that. It's laws and orders made this possible. All right, so little things like that. Now, the tie-in with Charlie as well is that for people to see is that he sacrificed his name, his brand, his image to create this massive movement for the bigger outcome down the road. And there will be disclosure on this. But for right now, they're not ready for that because we're turning into what's getting ready for October, Red October, with the subpoenas of Bill and Hillary and all these things. And for people who think Q was a conspiracy theory, all of you Republican conservatives out there calling people Q-tards, I've always said this. Q is no good unless it has laws and orders with it. But Q, President Trump, just not long ago, put up a post a couple weeks ago before all this. He put up a post and it said, the world will soon understand. Nothing can stop what's coming. And in his left hand had a Q with a plus sign by it, Q plus. President Trump shared that. The man who revolutionized social media. And then you'll have Republicans, conservatives, what I call rhinos. Oh, he didn't mean to put that. Oh, he shares a lot of things. See, it's all that mentality out there. With Charlie, it was a sacrifice. It's a part of it's the turning point. Now it's like if you're a race car fan, we're on turn 4, we're on the home stretch. We're off to the races to the home stretch. All right. So you got to know those things. Also, you know, the coolest part of it is the fact that the next day, his executive producer, Stoff, what was so important about getting on a podcast the next day? I'm pretty sure America would be okay with the show if this was real by saying, all right, there won't be a few shows for a few days or a week or two. You know, what was so important about having his buddies up there, his quote-unquote widow up there, which was all artificial intelligence as well. You run that same video through the chat GPT, artificial intelligence. All right. So all that was fake. And then his executive producer said exactly what needed to be said with 2 words. He said, Charlie was not much of a central casting kind of guy. Boom. There's your consistency with President Donald John Trump, all the central casting comments he said for the last 9 years. Boom, 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 boom. There's your consistency. And then you just got to pay attention to what you're looking at. All right. So I got bombarded by all the women this week, the women with their heads up their rear ends. All of a sudden, that's called makeup and cosmetics. Oh, she changed her eyebrows, and she changed the shape and her color into this. So I'm like, I waited. I took all the arrows, rods, slings, and everything. I'm like, wait, guess what happened? See, if they'd have just waited to see her next appearance, then voila, what happened? The next appearance on the 21st, all of a sudden, she looks like the girl she looked like some before September the 12th, all the way back. So she made her first post on Instagram, January the 3rd, 2012. All right. And her most recent post before the 10th was the 4th, September the 4th, which was a video. Why is it that girl from the 4th, all the way back to 2012, looks like a girl who would have aged a little bit over that 13-year span? all of a sudden changes everything. Why would it be priority, ladies, to change your eyebrows, your eye shape, your eye tint, your eyeshadow,
and
all that stuff?
You can tell a lot of what is fake because these people can't act their way out of a paper bag. She was
And it was
clearly reading
fake.
something, and she was smiling for no reason. And I think she accidentally used the verb that he is instead of was or something.
Well, let me show you that. Here's that, ladies. Ladies, remove your emotions like you're good about doing out there. All right, I'm talking to you as if you went negative or sad. Listen, ladies, every time she talked about Charlie as her husband, it was present tense. Every time she talked about Charlie as the podcaster with his friends, his buddies, the company, etc., it was past tense. That's very key. See, that's the stuff. If your ass, and I'm going to be slang just for a moment. If your ass was in court, right, and you had someone like me defending you, and or if I was a witness, you want someone like me on your side because I pay attention to every little thing that could actually save your rear end. All right. And see, people don't think about that because why? They react with emotions and feelings and sadness and this. And I'm like, no. There wasn't anything consistent. There was no genuine authenticity, sadness. Ladies, you can tell. And then when you go with that, what was so priority about having her speak 2 days after if she was just going to speak on the 21st? Like, if people would do that and look at that, what was so priority about naming her the CEO before he's even quote unquote buried? There's no burial. Where's the burial? Like, this is the stuff that gets me. No casket, no burial, right? Okay, so President Trump went to Billy Graham, laid his hand on the casket. All right. He went to Pope Francis. He was at George Herbert Walker Bush, and he was at Jimmy Carter's funeral. We all saw caskets of all these people, but we can't see a casket at the quote-unquote funeral. All right, and then also they showed her with the casket, someone filming over her at his hands, and she said, "God bless you." Look, if I came up to you on the street and I was a pompous ass like some people think I am, and maybe I am when it comes to certain things, I'm okay with that. My mama loves me and daddy loves me, and I'm okay. So I'm good. I came up to you on the street, though, and I said, I'm going to give you 2 options. You got 2, and I'm going to force you, hold your eyes open, and you're going to look at it. All right? You get 2 options. 1, you get to look at a man get shot on TV and blood, whether they know it's real or not. That's your first option. 2, you get to look at the corpse. All right. Which one is it? Majority of people are going to roll with this one right here. All right. The corpse. So we can see a man, the mainstream media didn't censor anything. All these high-tech technology and cameras and sensors and everything we have on coding, on Facebook, on Twitter and all these things. But all of a sudden, they didn't let that censor and they let every one of you see that. But then we only can see yellow hands, which that ain't what your hands look like when you're dead, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so, but in no face, we can't confirm this death. And then the next thing, they overproduced it. They showed her filming the casket going through a garage, putting in the back of a hearse. There's like a 1930-something Packard sitting beside it. I mean, it's just the weirdest thing ever. That's overproduction, ladies and gentlemen.
I think that a lot of the visuals that you saw were to remind people, most of whom were dead or not old enough to know what was going on when JFK died, because he was assassinated in public and his casket was taken back, and with the vice president being sworn in on the airplane. Notice how the vice president carried his casket. So there's a lot of similarities to visuals commensurate with 1963. So go on. I'm sorry. I just want to jump in.
Well, there's that. All right. So the vice president and the Air Force too. Now, here's another thing tying that in, because that's the next place you got to go with it, is President Trump got hammered by liberals out there. Now, we know what they are. They don't know what's going on, but you got to look at it this angle. They hammered him and quote-unquote Joe and all that. This was all done on purpose about President Trump saying something about soldiers and being dead and all these other things. All right. They hammered him over this to try to get the veteran community and all these people to turn on him, etc. All right. Now, I know a lot of that was theater, but for the people that didn't, you got to look at it from that angle, and I'll play on that angle for you, is that if President Trump was acting in a real 4-year presidency, which he's not, but if he was, and he ever lost the veteran community, it would be bad, bad news for him, because what do most people do? They may not listen to me because, oh, you didn't serve long enough. Well, if a general and a colonel and all the generals and colonels and all these hired with the lone DD-214s and the loan services started saying it all at once, and he didn't have a 65-35 or 75-25, he didn't have like a majority somewhere for him, and he ever lost that, it would not be pretty in this nation. Well, let me tell you right now, that's why I wear this memorial bracelet right here, and I have another one up here on my mantle. All right, but military funerals, memorial graves, military funerals are for military only. There would be no reason whatsoever. I don't care what any civilian says. This is why you're a civilian and not a veteran. All right, but there would be no condition that any person would receive military when you're a civilian. All right, that you just wouldn't. They give it to presidents, even though they never were prior service before, but that's because they become president, commander in chief, and you got your vice president and that. So, but other than that, that was the Air Force that was carrying his casket, and it was sideways. All right, if you look at the camera, it's sideways. That ain't no honor whatsoever. And then Vance is pushing back on the casket. It's real weird. If you watch him walk, it's real awkward and weird. All right. No way, Jose, would that ever. Billy Graham didn't get that. There's a lot of people who would be deserving of a military if you're going to justify it over Charlie Kirk. And I have nothing against Charlie Kirk.
He doesn't qualify for a military.
Well, Billy Graham wouldn't either. But what I'm saying, if you're going to slice a hair here, you go with someone who had been around for many, many years, many, many decades through different presidencies. And what they did during that time period, every president wanted Billy Graham around them. All right, no matter what the presidents were doing, etc. All right, everybody wanted Billy Graham. So that would not happen. Then you have Kash Patel saying, "I'll see you in Valhalla, brother." All right, ladies and gentlemen, Kash Patel's not a veteran. Kash Patel's not a veteran. Charlie Kirk's not a veteran. All right, now on my memorial bracelet right here, I always take it off. I know what it says, but I'm just going to read it word for word where you can see it. Till Valhalla, brother. All right, that's something we adopted in the military because you either are or you ain't. All right, so Valhalla, it can only mean one other thing because they're not veterans. And then the visuals of the Air Force shows you some military operation, plus you tie in no White House military office. So that movement was all theater. There's no White House military office. Valhalla's witness protection. All right. And so when you tie in the central casting, when you tie in what his producer said he didn't really, I pushed him to do all this. He didn't really want to do all this. All right. So you got a guy who, it doesn't matter how passionate he sounded to you. It may have been someone who was ready to just give it up, but I don't believe that. I believe what I know and what I've been told by the people who are in the other higher level operations, that it was a turning point. The next day, they had his buddy sitting there, which would have not been priority. If this guy had just been shot like it was, the gory scene that it was, you wouldn't have had your buddy sitting around, oh, we had to do this for Charlie. No, you don't. You postpone that. You could do that later, and people will understand if it was real because the emotions and feelings that would have been there if all the other things didn't show artificial and all the other things. So his producer said the key things you needed to hear. He's not really a central casting kind of guy, and I'm the one that pushed him more and more and more out there in the spotlight and wanted him to do more and more things out there in the spotlight. All right. So that's a lot of comms, and then also going into Erica being tied in with President Trump way back here with these pageants and all these things, and she's an actress and all that. So that also explains to women out there that why you didn't hear the sadness and the emotion and all that in her voice. And then, again, going back, so she changed her look for one day, completely eyebrow shape, eyebrow tint, just to go right back to looking like she always did. On the 21st, she looked like the girl from the 4th. back to the 2012. All right, so all that shows you. And then go watch someone like George Strait. I mean, I'll have to put a real patriot out there. But go to someone like George Strait, who's had 75,000 people in an audience at one time. Watch his concerts. When he looks around, no, he can't see certain faces, but it don't look like he's staring into the sun. Go watch her. She's like, she just looks like, I mean, it's just gazing. And then she'll take her little napkin and.
Oh, bad acting. I think
Bad acting.
she's an actress, but she's not.
Horrible acting. Horrible acting.
Horrible. And
But
then she did it in a rhythmic kind of way. And then, okay. And there was
Well,
no
what I'm trying to
tears
get
there.
women up, no tears. And what I'm trying to get women to see is that, look at all the women who attacked me, all right, over makeup and cosmetics. So she changed her whole look for the 12th. Then she's back to the same look that she always was on the 21st.
Okay, it was not her on the 12th, right? Or was it just
No, it's artificial.
or or is it another actress?
Well, it could be another actress, but it's probably AI fully created, not just screen and what it looks like. That could be. That's what President Trump did with Obama with the whole arresting of it. All right, and then why would that be your first thought to change your makeup, your eyes, your eyebrow, your eye tint, your everything? If it was, and here's why: if the woman comes and says, "Well, she was preparing for crying." So she didn't wear as much mascara and eyeshadow and makeup. Then if the funeral was on the 21st and she's sitting there dampening this right here, she's crying, even though it wasn't tears, right? But she's still showing emotion. Why don't she look like she did on the 12th? So see, you pin people. That's why I tell people what Native American chiefs used to do if they weren't being ambushed or it wasn't something they had to respond to quick. If it was some kind of attack and they heard about it, they didn't respond initially. They sat back and observed and let it play out a little bit. And what are most podcasters doing? They're showing also that they're going to be deleted as well when they go through all this stuff, because you can't have everybody speaking out against the president and the government and the military. And I'm going to bring that in, what they're doing with that on the lawful side. But this is what that's showing. All these people who react, and everybody wants an opinion. So I had another video go viral again on my Facebook. It got 600 and something thousand views on the AI or whatever it was, one of those things. All right, I can't remember which one it was. But here's the point I'm trying to show people. At the time, I had 143,000 followers on that one account. There was over 600,000 views on one video. But my numbers didn't go up any off of that 600,000 views. All right. And it wasn't like a short video. It wasn't like it was a two or 3 second video where it would be a quick. And someone's just sitting there watching it over and over and over. It wouldn't be like that. It was a pretty, not super long video, but it was lengthy enough that people would have had to sit there long enough to see it to count that kind of views and the algorithms. So it shows that people are captured by mainstream media, but they're also captured by what? They don't even when it's, I'm not mainstream, but even when they do see something like that and it's being shared a lot, they didn't click out of that box to click on 1776 Nation and come over and look at the rest of the things that I present on there. So it shows they're just captured, and it shows how people will bounce from one post to the next, to the next, to the next. And that's why we look the way we look. So if everybody would sit down and remove social media, if they knew about me, and take the laws and the orders by President Donald John Trump alone, and then see how there's a blueprint there, they wouldn't need all the other noise and distractions, which typically leads them to a bad mood or sad or angry or bitter or frustrated or chaos or whatever. That's not how the military operates. That's why I'm cool, calm, and collected. Now, I'll show my rear end sometimes. We all get up in there in the camera, and because I'm trying to get people, stop listening to this stuff. I show you what President Trump, I'm not showing what Derek Johnson does. I'm showing you what President Donald John Trump's working with. Doing what I'm supposed to be doing as a veteran. This is about me. I'm the deliverer. I'm the messenger. But this is about the military, President Donald John Trump, and all the other people working back there. And it's like I told people, I'm like, you're more happy that Charlie's dead. In another way, this is how I tell people, you actually want him dead. I'm sitting here showing you how you could be watching the military operation by laws and orders. And I'm like, you actually want him more dead than I do, because I don't want him dead. I know he's not.
It's throughout all the wonderful intel that you have been explaining to people for all this time. It's good news. And why? And you get so upset, rightly so. Then when people keep questioning it,
Negative.
it's good news. Do people just not want good news? That's
I don't think they
the other
do.
thing. This is one of my biggest questions that I wanted to ask you when with the Charlie Kirk thing and everything else. All that you said, okay, this all military operation, we're revealing stuff that needs to be revealed in order to turn the giant ship of public opinion in the direction that we want it to go in, because they've been such a captured operation within the fake news media and all that sort of stuff. When this is all said and done and we have victory and it's exposed and everybody knows that this was a military operation, whether they've gotten the joy of seeing you explain it all along the way or not, aren't people going to be pissed? You made us think that Charlie Kirk was dead.
No, because here's why. Like, I know people who don't like snakes, all right? And if I know they're absolutely terrified of a snake, down in the South, we have a lot of snakes and rattlesnakes, particularly, and copperheads. And if we were walking through the woods and, I knew there were a bunch of snakes that were going to be there, but we had, they wanted me to take them hunting or something like that, then I wouldn't tell them, hey, there's going to be a bunch of snakes there. I would just get them there to the location, let them hunt. Now, if we're on our way there just happens to be a snake and it's not in their path, I would guide them around it and then wait till later and say, hey, when I know they were in a place out of that area in that region, maybe when we're sitting back in the house, we're sitting on the couch, I say, hey, by the way, there was a rattlesnake today that was in our path and I guided you around it, but I didn't tell you about it because I didn't want you to get scared. All right. And I didn't want you to have a freaking heart attack or something like that. That right there, once you get that person in an element where they're cool, calm, collective, and you can disclose that to them, then it will be an appreciation factor when you get there. You wouldn't tell them when you're there, hey, there's a rattlesnake we just passed by. You wouldn't do that. All right. So President Trump told everybody in the 2016 campaign trail that he said, I will earn everybody's trust in the economy. And then you'll appreciate what we're doing with the military, because once we show you what we do with the economy, you'll be appreciated with that. So once you get everything cleaned out, once people see the taxes alleviated, once people see all these things operate and flowing, and not the old school checks and balance like they used to do, where like one of these is up here and one of these is down here, and then one is here and one is here. When they're both down where they're supposed to be, where they've always supposed to be, and people start seeing that in their bank accounts, they're seeing that with their paychecks, meaning what they're able to do, not just putting it in a bank, but also what they're able to go spend or vacation or do whatever. When people see all the fruits of the labor that's been going on, then people will be appreciative to say, look, here's what we were going through, and we didn't tell you then because you would have panicked, and then if you'd have panicked, guess what you might have done? All these other things. All right, we didn't need you from that angle, all right, because you didn't know what was going on, and that's okay. But now, from here out forward, you're going to be educated. That's why they're taking out the Department of Education. That's why they're putting everything back to the states. That's why they're bringing down big government all the way down. That's why all these things are taking place. So once people see all that, and they get them into a place of the golden age, as he calls it, then you can start disclosing all these things that took place. He's already saying it. All right. But again, Charlie Kirk, for right now, it needed to be the turning point to get people set up for what's about to take place. And if I can break that down really quick right now, President Trump just said today at the United Nations thing, he said, we have been using tariffs as a defense method. All right. That is one of the emergency powers of a wartime president, ladies and gentlemen. He just validated the Midnight Rider rise again over and over. He does it daily. Also, here's what President Trump will do. I know this, but if you don't know this, it's going to sound braggadocious on my part again, but I have to tell it. When President Trump says we have to protect our nation's IQ and smart people, he's talking about people like me, and I know that. All right, I don't abuse that, but I'm saying that for a reason. He validates people like me. I'm not the only one, but he validates people along the way to let you know he's listening to you, and he knows, and he ain't forgot, and all these other things. All right, here's why. Today, he said it may sound braggadocious. He ain't used that word before. I've been using that word over and over. I'm the only podcaster I know that uses that word. All right. So that's another tip and all the other things that he does. Now, he did it for a manager of mine one time. He said a word that he has never said before, and it's one of those words you just don't pull out the hat. I mean, you do if in a rabbit trick, you would in a hat trick or a magic trick. But other than that, it's not just a word you use in common daily language. And it was right after we said it. They said it on like a Sunday. Monday, you used it. So that was a tip of the hat. All right. And so little things like that. He's very high IQ. All right. So it's all calculated. All right. So that's the first thing to know. That is an emergency power regulating commerce, tariffs. And he said, we're using it in defense. That's a straight up showing you I have an emergency power and it's already been invoked. Because when did they put the tariffs in place? 2018. All right. So all the laws and orders that President Trump's working with the military were all put into place back here from 2017 to 2021. So how was quote unquote Joe president? Why didn't quote unquote Joe, if President Trump's a threat to democracy and a dictator and all these things, which we're not a democracy, but still all these things, why didn't they terminate everything that President Trump put into place? Wartime powers, war orders, Title 10, Title 32 military orders. Why did they leave all those open? Just to hand back to them on January the 20th, 2025 and say, here's your big giant red bow. Here's all your orders.
I think it's because they needed 4 more years to get all the
I know that. Yeah, I know that. And that's already been said. But I'm saying, I'm showing people why you have to listen. That's what validates to the people that this is an operation. Is that if Joe was president and if President Trump was a dictator, a fascist, and all these things, he would have terminated all these things. All right, so this gets over to what I'm about to say. One order that he's using right now is from April 4, 2020, which is under that first 180 days of Title 50, Chapter 33, Section 1550, which is the war order, the foundational. From the NDAA 2020, it's in the War Powers Act. This one order. Then he just put out a new order March 18, 2025, which will be this year, but it's part of your continuity of government. It's a third wing of your original foundational continuity of government, which stem back over here in the second 180 days under the war order. All right, so see the continuity of the war order. All right, so let's go look at 13913. April the 4th, 2020. This executive order is talking about the FCC and it's a committee setting up the establishment of Team Telecom. Team Telecom will be your team that is working with FCC on what? Cancellations and the grants or denials of what? ABC, NBC, MSNBC, CNN, PBS, NPR, Jimmy Kimmel, all that. That's what that was. So how was President Trump a threat to democracy and all these things if this order was back here in April 4th, 2020, and it never got terminated by quote unquote Joe? But then December of 2021, you had quote unquote Joe establishing the committee for the Team Telecom. Why would Joe Biden do that? He established the actual committee that is being used right now. All right. And then 2023 and 2024, you had congressional reports on Team Telecom. So for the average eye out there, that was quote unquote Joe, but it wasn't really him. All right, but why would Joe, if people just want to hang on that, why would Joe create a committee of what's going to tear down all of your mainstream media out there that's going to cancel them and abolish them and get away with them? And then they just said this week, the view's under FCC investigation. All right, there's your Team Telecom. There's your Executive Order 13913 from President Donald John Trump, April the 4th, 2020. There's your Team Telecom that quote unquote Joe established the committee to of President Trump's executive order. All right. So see how they're taking down the deep state? None of the deep state. You think how stupid that would be really quick? Think how stupid that would be for quote unquote Joe to come out and say, oh, this is all BS. That. It's your signature right here. You did this. Now see, it wasn't him, but that's going to bring out the disclosure down the road of the 45-47. But for people who just can't grasp that right now, you have to flip the picture around and go, okay, well, he wouldn't be able to say he's a dictator and all these other things because he's the one on paper who established the actual team that's taken out Jimmy Kimmel and ABC and NBC and MSNBC and CNN and PBS and NPR. So there's that. Now fast forward. you have your 14239. Well, President Trump invoked the continuity of government back here December the 7th, 2020. 3 days later is the most recent order of succession within the Department of War now, old Department of Defense. All right. Also, Joe Biden, quote unquote, was the first, quote unquote, president to not have an order of succession within the National Security Council. All right. So how could he meet with generals and admirals, which make up the Joint Chief of Staff, if he don't even have an order of succession? The first president in United States history since 1947, the creation, but he's got a national security memorandum. Well, an order of succession is more precedent than a memorandum. All right, so watch this. Pause that. Also in the executive order, it talks about a national security specialty event. There's your Presidential Policy Directive -22 from Obama in 2013. So Charlie Kirk was the first funeral outside of a president. So there's only been 3 funerals before that required Super Bowl type security, which is Secret Service. All right. And it was for quote unquote Charlie. Well, guess what that was for? They collected all the names, emails, and addresses of these people. So they got all those, the 100 million streaming, also getting them to sign up. Guess what you do when you sign up? You got to put name, email, phone number, contact information, everything. So now all of a sudden they have your what? Your IP addresses and everything for what? The emergency alert. All right, so they got every facet of life. And then also this national security event, this national security specialty event. All right, that ties into this executive order. All right, now give me a moment here. It's going to take me a minute. This is going to wrap it in there. All right, so in that executive order, it's got 2 other things in there. It's very key. But let me see which one I'm going to go with first. Well, I'll go with this one. It talks about restoring freedom of speech. What does Charlie Kirk stand for? Freedom of speech. All right, President Trump signed an executive order early this year for restoring freedom of speech. And all of a sudden, in this new continuity executive order in March, that's a continuation of your, back here, continuity government invocation. Well, quote unquote, Joe partially revoked the continuity government on the last full 24-hour day of presidency. So it shows we're in a partial continuity government, which means we're on the wrap up. It means we're on the turn. We're on turn 4. We're on the home stretch. And all of a sudden, in this executive order that ties into your continuity government, it's another form of continuity government, partial order. Restoring freedom of speech is in there. And it's got another key term in there, cognitive infrastructure. If you Google cognitive infrastructure, that is artificial intelligence, ladies and gentlemen. All right. So the 240 days clause in there. What are the odds that March the 18th, 2025, 240 business days takes you to November the 13th of this year? And this event happened in between that 240 days? And this is all coincidence? No. All right. So those executive orders prove that. Now you got to roll into Obama. President Trump, just a month ago, said, I don't think people are ready for the quick trials, the judgment, the justice. He said this. No one paid attention to it. All right.
Was it a text, a truth, or was it a speech or something?
It was a speech. So when you go back a month ago, he also posted, all roads lead to Obama. Read truth if you want to see military tribunals during that same time period. So see, a lot of these Republicans, conservatives didn't even listen to the commander and go join WeGo.Social. So there's their first big problem right there, not listening to the president. He posts a lot of things on there that he don't put on X and other places. All right. So WeGo.Social, that's his baby. So you really want to know what he's talking about? You want to go over there. He posted this. Roll forward. September the 4th, you have Melania at the White House talking about the importance of artificial intelligence. All right. Then you go to September the 9th. You had the publication of the book that came out on Amazon, The Shooting of Charlie Kirk. Ladies and gentlemen, I know what it's like to publish a book. When you hit submit, the date that you submit it is the publication date. All right. There's no other reason how someone would have had The Shooting of Charlie Kirk on the 9th unless they already had something there. Well, they also know people like me are out there tracking all this and going to get it, find it, add it to. Also on the 9th, President Trump put a truth out. Quick trials. And I screenshot it at the moment, put it up on, I said, he's talking about the quick trials again, ladies and gentlemen, and we're getting close because of what? They subpoenaed Jeff Sessions and a few others in August. They're subpoenaing people in September, and they got Bill and Hillary and a few others in October. And getting everybody ready for the stage, all right, to get people, because of what he's showing. And then when he put, the world will soon understand, nothing can stop what's coming, Q plus in his hand, this was before the 10th. All right, so see, when you look back on hindsight, it adds up. Now, here's how it adds in to all these things. All right, so when you look at the artificial intelligence and the flipping other people and getting everybody's attention, now they got high schools, colleges, they got the middle age, they got the median age between like my age to 60, and then you got your older folks still hooked on Fox. So everybody is going to be ready for this moment when they disclose all this stuff. All right, so Obama. There's a Supreme Court docket case out there with President Trump. Why would President Trump file Donald J. Trump versus the United States government? If Donald Trump is the president of the United States as a regular sitting president, then why is he filing as Donald J. Trump versus the United States government in March of last year?
Was it in all capital letters? Like, was it the corporation? Oh, I'm sorry. This was
the quote unquote before the quote unquote assassination. All right. So how did he know to do this? In that docket, it specifically asks this question: can a president order SEAL Team 6 to commit an assassination on a political rival? All right. It has 3 amici curiae, which means friends of the court. One of those is 3-star General Keith Kellogg. Who wrote the 2017 National Security Strategy? Keith Kellogg. All right. Who was the editor of it? Fred Fleets. All right. Who's writing the new National Security Strategy right now? Keith Kellogg. Who's the editor of it? Same guy. All right. Who doesn't have an order of succession with the National Security Council? Quote unquote Joe. All right. But they showed the whole world in 2022 that he had a national security strategy. Where did it go? If you go to the Department of War right now, the old Department of Defense archives, they still have Keith Kellogg's up from 2017 and all the way back to Reagan. Where is quote unquote Joe's? All right. So there's that. All right. So Keith Kellogg. Who was named the ambassador of Ukraine? Keith Kellogg. Who was in North Carolina with President Trump at the quote unquote storm over there? All right. Keith Kellogg. What did President Trump say to him? He said, I'd like to thank someone who's been with me before all of this. If there was no military operation going on during that storm, ladies and gentlemen, a general and a storm have no correlation whatsoever. Why he would be talking and giving a shout out to a general before all of this. If you go back and listen to the AI model, Erica, she said this. She used the term this. All right. You go back and listen for it. Also, then this in all caps on the 17th, this is the turning point. Then at the quote unquote funeral with no casket, they're holding up signs. This, all caps, this is the turning point. All right. That word this is a correlation. It all ties in. Keith Kellogg. Now watch this. All pun intended. All right. It asked that question. It said multiple combat generals and other senior level officials, astounding no. Read the bottom of it. It says any military officer that carried out such an order committed the gravest of crimes, murder. All right. The last time a president and a death with SEAL Team 6 were correlated was Osama bin Laden and Obama. Then 5 months later, Gaddafi was assassinated. Gaddafi stood up in 2011 at the nations and he said what? The same 5 world powers cannot rule this earth. He also said, are we not going to investigate what happened to Saddam Hussein? He was America's friend. He was Dick Cheney's friend until they killed him. All right. So he said that. Then he was mysteriously assassinated in October 2011, 5 months after Osama bin Laden. Guess whose name is not in the War Powers Act, the Title 50, Chapter 33 that President Trump is working with? Obama's not. All right. Who was not subpoenaed? Obama and Michelle. All right. So little things like that. Now watch this. This is the correlation to it all. President Trump said way back in 2020, he told Joe Biden on the quote unquote campaign, in the debate, he pointed at him and said, it was you, Joe. It was you who recommended the Logan Act to Obama on General Flynn. And they used the Logan Act on General Flynn for meeting with one Russian. President Trump met with 12 foreign leaders from April to December 2024, and the whole world witnessed it. And when they asked, quote unquote, Joe back then for the normies, what he thought about it, he's just trying to one up me for the presidency. Ladies and gentlemen, the same guy who used the Logan Act on a general is not using the Logan Act for meeting with 12 foreign leaders 13 different times at a private establishment, Trump Tower in Mar-a-Lago. That's what the Logan Act is, meeting with a foreign leader at a private establishment. All right, so that shows you all theater. But watch what he said. He said, we have it all. We've caught them all. No one could have caught them but me. Go back to September the 11th, just a few days ago. What did you not see? Everybody didn't pay attention to this because everybody was caught up in the Charlie Kirk and this, that. No. There were no memorials for 9/11. There weren't that many. I'm talking about your most big, President Trump, everybody. There was not a lot of posts about it. There was not a big to do about it. So watch what I'm saying. There was not, though. It wouldn't be what you thought it was. No matter what, if people thought it would overshadow Charlie Kirk and all this other stuff, there wasn't, though. All right. And it's for a reason. This is very important. All right. So you had your Air Force Two with quote unquote Charlie, who was not a veteran. All right. All that was showing you operational. All right. This bigger operation and the end goal was to drain the swamp, get rid of the whole swamp, the punishment, the treason, and everything that applied, and everybody under treason all the way out. Recenter the United States of America back on their foundation like the Declaration of Independence. That's why I tell people, if you'll get your emotions out of it and your feelings and shut up and listen long enough, Charlie Kirk was the turning point of the operation. And it won't be long for disclosure because of what's coming in October and then getting to July 4, 2026. If we got to July 4, 2026 and all the way out to 2029, and this was just they cleaned the deep state out and never told anybody and didn't say, okay, this is what you got to do and this is what it look like and this is what punishment looks like. If they never had any kind of re-education for people and it wasn't something, it would just be another 4 years. That dash is not just another 4 years. So they didn't show a lot on 9/11 for a reason. I say that on purpose because this leads into the bigger picture. On September the 11th, Eric Trump shared a picture on Instagram, and it was a challenge coin. Well, in the military, a challenge coin is like winning a Super Bowl trophy. All right, it's sacred to the veterans. So if a commander walks up and he says, "Hey, Derek, hey, Sergeant Johnson, what was the turning point of the Revolutionary War?" And you go, Valley Forge. He throws a coin at you. If that's like winning the Super Bowl, because a higher big level is recognizing that. Or he may say, "Hey, Sergeant Johnson, I want you to shoot expert. Can you shoot expert right now on this range? And if you shoot expert, challenge coin." There's all kinds of ways to get one, but it's a military thing. Why is Eric Trump? Cash Patel's not a veteran. Charlie Kirk's not a veteran. Eric Trump's not a veteran. And he's showing a challenge coin. What was on the challenge coin? Mission accomplished. So now watch this. Obama's not in the War Powers Act. And the Law of War Manual says you specifically have to catch people in the act. You can't do it 40 years ago. You can't go back because most witnesses are dead. All right. So when you tie in that there's a Supreme Court docket case there, Obama's not in the War Powers Act, and then you got all the verbiage leading up to that, and then this is the turning point. This is setting people up for the emergency alert in a positive way. I've told people it won't be no doomsday and all this other stuff. Now, everybody is paying attention to what's going on, and if the phone and the TV's flipped, what did they just show everybody the 21st at the Q rally that the September 21st Q post tells you? Enjoy the Q rally tonight. All right, September 21st, correlates, and it's getting people ready for Red October. This is the Red October. Charlie was a shot heard around the world. What are they getting people ready for? Well, it says about the 3 days of darkness. Well, I don't mean it. That's not going to be bad. That's just the what? It's the unveiling of everything, and it's the disclosure of everything. All right, so you have to disclose to people. Now, I've told people straight out the gate, it won't be no doomsday, nothing like that. Why would it be like that? But you get everybody's phones flipped over. The phones and the TV, they can't get out of it. Boom. It's right in front of them. And then what did everybody pass the other day? The one thing they passed the test of was this. They've been desynthesized. Yellowstone, Ozark, Walking Dead, Breaking Bad, all these TV shows made people get over the goriness. They didn't even, no one commented on the goriness of the blood and, no. Everybody went sad. Mm-hmm. Everybody went sad, emotional, feelings, crying, angry, and all that. But no one focused on the gore. So what are they ready for? Quick trials. They're ready to see executions on TV. They're ready to see people punished. And the only way you flip society back over is you got to be tough every now and then, and you flip people and say, this is what you're going to get for treason. This is what you're going to get for fraud. This is what you're going to get for theft. This is what you're going to get for bribery. You recenter all that, and you refocus that. So people are ready now for the quick trials, all right, and they're getting the stage set up for it. Charlie was the turning point, getting people ready. He's got everybody, all eyes now ready, all right. And then Obama, like President Trump has said, why is Obama resurfacing all of a sudden on X? Why is Hillary all of a sudden, they're all of a sudden piping off? Where did they go? All of a sudden now they're barking again. They're getting people ready. They're getting the liberals stirred up. They got the Republicans stirred up. They're getting everything set up. And everything shows this. So like the Q, right? And enjoy the rally tonight. And all those things are getting people ready. So if anybody thinks that's conspiracy, then you just don't have any appreciation for military laws, military orders, military regulations, customs, etc., because that's what everybody's watching. All right. So, but it should be exciting for everybody outside of the fact that I think it's an atrocity that we've reached this level in the world where we got to root for punishment from that kind of manner. I'm about punishment and I'm ready for justice. But at the same time, people got to realize the maintainability and sustainability on the flip side is what's important as well, where we don't ever get back to this place and position where it got this dirty, this deep, this dark, etc. So you use all the strategies and then the unconventional warfare. You go look at unconventional warfare, assassination, when the good guys are in control, it's a deliberate creation. All right, and you use that to flip the narrative in society and cultural norms. And once you get everybody back on this side, get them happy, get them content, show them some justice, show them all that, then we get into the golden age and everybody's seeing the money flowing in, the taxes alleviated, and all these things they've never seen before. Then you can tell them, this is what took place. This is why the dash is awesome. This is why, da-da-da-da-da-da.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Yeah. I can't wait. Now, what's your opinion of the eventual good news after they show the punishment and show the corruption that had to be righted about National Economic Security and Reformation Act, otherwise known as NASARA, and the Global Economic Security and Reformation Act?
Well, it'll be disclosed by the president. I mean, all these changes they made globally, all these changes they made to the banks, eliminating the CBDC and the, establishing all the digital and these different things. A lot of these things were created for tracers to trace the money, first off, people who were trying to do certain things. But that's why President Trump, right out the gate, 2017, said, follow the money. See, a lot of people don't forget about a lot of his quotes, and it's all because they think this has been every 4 years. It's not. It's a blueprint. But this is all about that. He said today at the United Nations speech about every nation will be on their own, but we will work together where we can and where we need to. But every nation needs to be focused on their own culture, their own society, their own humanity. And we're going to work together where we can and where we need to. But that's going to show you that. But as far as like what it's going to look like and all those things, like I've told people, I don't speak about it for one reason, because one, I'm not I know finances and different things because of my business background and master's in it. But other than that, the intricacies of it and the systems of it and all that, the tech part, but there has been a change. There's going to be a shift in the quantum But the quantum is like this bigger thing. You got people out there talking about a QFS. Yeah, but it's not a financial system. It's a quantum system with finances as a part of it.
Oh,
And that's where a lot of people want to call it that. And that the one person I wish people would listen to a little bit more is a colonel that we brought on to a panel that I met at Trump Doral. But it's a lieutenant colonel, retired, and he just turned 80, so he's just really launching. He didn't intend on launching it, but I made him get on these shows, and now he's a regular. But he talks about the auditing systems of the military and how the systems that we had in days of old, they weren't meant to be audited. That's how they got away with so many things, and why they were able to cut things and write it off and do all these other things. But then what did they do? They just printed more money. Right? They never accounted for it, especially if they cut it or just made it go off paper somehow as it didn't exist, but it actually got spent, but it didn't exist when you went to do what? Audit. And so that he can break all that down, and also how the new system is scary as some people think it might be. And like same thing with artificial intelligence. As scary as it might be to some people, it's still got its good too. And you still want to have it because what? When the good guys are in control, like President Trump said, then what? Then the bad guys, we know what they're doing if they try to do anything at all. All right. And you can keep it suppressed. But if you let the bad guys get the foothold, and they're the more savvy and tech savvy and brains and skills and all that, and they take control, then you got to do what? You got to combat them with that as well. So you still always got to know it. And that's why I tell people laws and orders are not conspiracy theories. Just because you never heard of it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And you need a guy like me, and I'm not the only one, but you need people like me who do sit here and study every little intricate detail. They can find the loopholes if there are any. And then when the good guys are in control of the loopholes, then what do? We plug the loophole. The bad guys don't do that. They keep going through the loophole. And what we do is go in there and go, when that bad guy comes in there and all of a sudden there's a cement wall there, they got to turn around and go, well, we got to try again. But when all the holes have cement in them all of a sudden, then guess what they are? They dry up and wither away. So little things like that. So that's what everybody had to watch.
Like Q said, that there are more good people than bad people, and I definitely believe that. I think you do too. It looks like the level of corruption, and it could have never evolved in any other way once they turned our entire country into corporations and subsidiary corporations with the Act of 1871 that got implemented in 1878 under the guise of reorganizing the government of the city of the District of Columbia. When so it all gets
go back and watch John Wayne's 1939 movie Stagecoach. And when they're in the stagecoach, the guy's in a business suit and he goes, "What this country needs is a businessman." 1939, John Wayne movie, right? And so if people will apply that, and also I think it was the same year, it's either that year or maybe a year or two before it, you had Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. What are the odds that you had what ended up being a brigadier general, retired Jimmy Stewart, and then also John Wayne? What are the odds at the same time period these two icons in movie history, right, are sitting there in their scripts, and most of them had influence on those scripts, well, especially back then. The same time period, James Stewart sitting there telling people what's going on with Congress and how they passed their bills and put it all together. And then you got John Wayne and a guy saying, what this country needs is a businessman. So why did it take from 39 to 2017?
This is a spiritual war to a great extent. And it's been brilliantly, God intended, implemented through this special military operation that you're so brilliantly explaining to everybody, because of the fact that you have an organization that answers to no one. And that Chevron doctrine, when that got changed, because any bureaucrat, paper pusher could say, nope, you broken the law, you're going to jail, or you're paying this huge fine. Doesn't matter. They weren't elected. They weren't supposed to be doing that. But when you have an organization that answers to nobody, that has no no constraints on it, the people within that organization are going to do nothing but try to enrich themselves. And so we've really, I think, been living under a organized crime syndicate for all these years. And the holly is the kind of wood that they use to make magic wands. And they have been showing us, because in God's law, just like in court, you have to tell somebody that you're going to attack them before or you have to tell somebody that you're bringing charges.
You listen to President Trump's speech today. I mean, it's kind of random to say, yeah, we've captured and gotten rid of 1,700 career criminals. That wouldn't be street gang. That wouldn't be. He's talking about Washington D.C. though, so he's like, well, we've removed over 1,700 career criminals. It's not talking about people on the street. That'd be a random number to pull out the hat. 1 to 17, but then also, you wouldn't know the number of criminals if they were gang related and things like that. The odds of that, it just ain't there. So that also shows people what's about to come. So it's like they're setting everybody up for the good, and then it's like the good, the bad, the ugly. Well, the bad is not bad. I don't even see where there is a bad. But the bad would be for the people still in the target audience that feels like this stuff's real. But it's not if people just relax a little bit. But they're going to find out. It's like I told someone today, you'll get over it. You don't like my attitude, you'll get over it. I can't unknow what I know, and I can't undo what I'm doing. You'll have your random fools out there saying you can purchase this. No, you can't. When it's official embroidery like that, first off, if you can't even see it up close, that's embroidery. You can get on Amazon and you can see stuff where they can laminate it, but they make sure that if you purchase this on base, you have to have clearance to purchase it. So there you go. You're a veteran. Remember your oath. You can always be called back into positions depending on your skill sets, and and if you're demonstrating something out there, then they'll recruit you if they want you. But that's why God put me in a position I'm in, and the opportunity that I was given, and I took it and I ran with it, and I'm going with it. And especially veterans, though, if you keep your oath, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, the good Lord may call you back in at a whole different capacity you never dreamt of. Because if I was in the military still, by oath, I wouldn't be able to say what I'm saying, because you'll be under oath, and if you're under oath, you're supposed to be doing that. You wouldn't be on social media, right? Because there's social media guides now. You're not supposed to be doing that. And that's why they've had to crack down on all these youngsters and out these people out there, the 40-year-old bracket and under, because in their uniform on social media and using the uniform that we die in, all right, over there dancing and doing all these other things. Now, some people have opinions on that, and that's okay. But most veterans are going, hey, not that uniform. That's what we die in. That's what everybody who died in that uniform. Have some reverence for that uniform. And so that's what Pete Hegseth and the whole mission was about. It's getting the military back to what the military is supposed to be about. All right. And I got a Marine buddy. He says, you pray for peace and you prepare for war. You don't want war, but we prepare for it. But you pray for peace, prepare for war. But it's the Department of War not saying, oh, we're going to war, but it's saying, no, we're getting all this DEI out. We're getting this out. We're checking this out. You're going to be doing this. You're going to know your history. You're going to know the laws and orders of this nation. You're going to know how all this correlates, and you're going to be a soldier that's a soldier.
I believe that this military operation has already held a lot of people accountable. They've already had a lot of military tribunals, and they've already executed them. But when they eventually show it, it will be as though it's happening right now. And
for the target audience.
For the target audience. Because I think that when it's all said and done, we're going to find out people that we think are alive are actually long since been dealt with and are no longer among the living.
Well,
have lookalikes, or they use those, Mission Impossible like masks, or
Oh yeah, that's a given. Once it's not if what they're doing though in the grand scheme is showing you how fast it's supposed to look in a real life situation. It was never supposed to drag out. Same thing like an O.J. Simpson trial, even though we know that was all money and bought out and politics and propaganda, but it correlates into showing the people what government's supposed to look like small government, state government, and punishment level is supposed to look like, and see when everybody's firing on all cylinders and they know the laws and the orders. Like I tell people, the reason why what I say is so important is because I don't want to be, personally, I don't want to be a lawyer myself. I don't want to be someone that goes in a courtroom and be a lawyer. But if I ever had to be in a courtroom, I can know the law to know if my lawyer is for me or if he's just sitting there like you go in a Spanish restaurant, you know what the hell, you don't know what they're saying. They're like, hey, let's put some rat in here with this enchilada. They won't ever know it. Right? So if you know Spanish, you can be like, hey, I don't want rat in that. I heard what you said. You better put that. Right? So it's the same thing. And so many Americans, they think you got to be a lawyer to know the law, a judge to know the law, a congressman or woman. You got to be, got to have a loan DD 214 to know military. They think all these entitlements, and that's what President Trump's been breaking down. It's also why Charlie Kirk was used to break down the entitlement of he didn't have a college degree. Great if you do. I have one. I have a bachelor's from Alabama and a master's from Colorado State, but they didn't do anything to me. It's just a piece of paper on the wall if I don't have the brain to put it together. So it's breaking all these cultural, what people thought were norms, which really weren't norms. Cultures are supposed to be other things. Norms are supposed to be other things, not put in the government. But I can tell people, once you put something in law, then it becomes interpretable. And then it depends on who's interpreting it, who's in command. And if it's someone in command that you don't like, then you're never going to be for it because it should have probably never been put in law in the first place. Right? So it's all these things. You got to bring it back down. And that's what they're doing in that spectrum. But yeah, all these things have already taken place. And for the target audience, they're showing how rapid fire it's supposed to be. Because we're going to go right out of this Charlie Kirk turning point. We're only 7 days away, a week away from October the 1st. I think Bill is subpoena is the 14th. All right. And so when you look at that bigger picture and how fast they'll go after that to get to July 4th, the way President Trump talks about the celebrations of what's coming, that ain't just for Republicans. That's not just for conservatives. That's not just for patriots. That's for humanity, the world. He talked about the FIFA World Cup today that's going to be here in 2026. Now, personally, I'd rather watch wet paint dry than watch soccer. But for all the people who love it, great for you. You'll have something to be happy for, and I'm going to be like happy for you because I'm not going to be watching that, right? So, but there's going to be all these happy times, right? And in order to get to that, we got to have some stuff. And then also you got to look at his age. I mean, he'll be 80 in this 250th birthday of the United States of America. He'll be 80 June the 14th, right? 2026. So when you if you look at life in a normal standpoint, right, and you look at the 80s, my dad told us one other day, your 80s are hell because on your body and the age and how much you age in your 80s, and he just turned 83. So when you look at that bigger picture and you see President Trump's age, well, he deserves, for the people who do or don't know what's been going on, he deserves to ride off to the sunset, not have to sit and think and worry and this, all these other things. He would deserve to be in a retirement capacity where he's enjoying that, all right, without everything else. So when you look at that, they wouldn't wait till he's 95 years old to do something like that, or 90 years old. So the calendar is on a God's calendar, the 7-year cycle. And that's what everything's doing. Now, what I've done the whole time is I don't make predictions and all that because I show the commanders that, hey, I want a spot on the other side of this, somewhere up here that I'm able to do what? Keep a secret, hold a secret, whatever's classified, all these other things. So I let things happen, and then I show people by laws and orders what it is. Now, I'm still ahead of everybody with my books and all the other things in other ways, and so there's certain things that special operations are 2 and 3 and 5 steps ahead and 2 and 3 and 5 years ahead with certain things. But also, like the Charlie Kirk thing would be, I had a good question come in, which is good. They say, well, if it's a special operation, how's it visual? Well, the visual that you saw is a disclosure. If you knew what a special operation was and the assassinations, the deliberate creation of unconventional warfare and all this back here, if you would study this, then you would see that was your actual visual disclosure and then how it ties into the bigger picture. But the other people do what? Oh, sad and emotional. Well, they thought it was something else. It's not. So it's all disclosed. This is a part of it. And then he puts his timestamp. Elon and President Trump sit there with the tip of the spear. That's special operations. That's this right here. It's easier to do it upside down, though. You flip it upside down. That's what that is. That's a proclamation. So for whenever they do disclose all this, there's going to be things all along the way that show this was this the whole time, and here it is. And you'll have consistency the whole time.
That's why they did that. That's what we're going to eventually see. It's going to be wonderful. I'm so reassured. I feel so much better. I think the fact that they kind of are all getting exposed that it was AI and that sort of thing, it's slowly doing it to people that are really digging it. But it did its good, because we brought so many people hopefully to the Lord. And that's the whole purpose of our existence here on this planet. I'm completely convinced, is to make the choice to give your life to the Lord, and to get into relationship with our Creator Father through the sacrifice of His Son Jesus, with the gift of the Holy Spirit, who is like I always liken it like my cell phone to God. And that the Holy Spirit lives inside us, to see that the world has hopefully more people, because of His sacrifice, are going to seek out God. That's all to the good. And thank you so much. I would end in prayer, and then I will edit this and put it up on. If you could share it, that'd be great, because it's hard for me to get any views because of the sin. I don't even write censorship. I write sin, soar, and then ship. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for blessing us with this meeting tonight, and for the disclosures and the explanation of what's going on in your amazing, brilliant war against the enemies of you and the enemies of humanity, Lord. We ask you to continue to give discernment to Derek and to me, and to bless all those around Derek, all Derek's family, his friends, and all those that watched, the millions of people that watched the memorial service on Sunday. And we ask you to continue to give us discernment on what to do next. Bless everyone who's watching this. We pray in your precious Son, Jesus Christ. Thank you. Thanks so much. A pleasure as always, and we'll do it again soon. Have a blessed evening.
I'll see you soon.
Okay, bye-bye. Please help support my Accountability News Show and save money by using promo code ACCOUNTABILITY. With a 10-year warranty and a 60-day money-back guarantee, there's no reason to wait. Go to mypillow.com/accountability or call 800-886-0309 so you can have a blessed night's restful sleep.